Bet on Bears fans, another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat the designer, Tommy Waddle in the building. How you feeling today, Waddle?
I feel like a fill-in, probably because Yurko's in Scotland, right? Isn't that why I'm here?
A little golfing.
Yeah, it wasn't like you just said, hey, you know what, let's talk some Bears. It was like, hey, Yurk's out of the country. Any chance you could fill in for the good kid?
Waddle, we actually wanted to bring you here just to talk Chicago Bulls. That was our entire purpose. Ah, dang it, Waddle, come back. Nah, man, we got a lot on the show today. Want to talk about Ben Johnson with you. Gotten to talk to you about him a little bit. We were more focused on draft things last time we had you on. Now, want to talk about how quickly he can assimilate to this team and kind of get people to fall in line and just break down some different things around this coaching staff. Talk about all that and more in today's episode. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. We do want to let you guys know today's episode is brought to you by the Advantage Dealer Group. Find your next Chevy, Toyota, or Acura. Drive off in under 60 minutes or they'll make your first car payment. Also brought to you by the Hard Rock Casino in Northern Indiana. Las Vegas-style gaming, just 30 minutes from Soldier Field. Exit 6 right off of I-80-94. That was a lot.
Got to navigate some traffic to get there, but once you're there, it is brilliant.
It's a phenomenal time.
It's awesome.
It's a phenomenal time. And Yurko has told me, great steak dinner up there.
No doubt.
I haven't had it yet.
Everything about that experience is great.
Got to tap in next time. All right, Waddle, I want to ask you this. Okay. And as we get things going here, talking football, of course, you've got a lot of new in the building. New players have been added to the dynamic now. New coaches, of course, have been added in. There's a lot of change, new system being added in. How quickly, in your mind, is it going to take Ben Johnson to get true buy-in completely?
I think you'll get buy-in pretty much immediately. For those who were here previously with the last regime, look, it's all they bellyached about. Coach us harder, coach us, hold us accountable, do this, do that. Look, your ass is going to be held accountable by Ben Johnson and Eric Bieniemy and Antoine Randall and Dennis Allen. Like, you're going to be – that's the one thing, Pat, I would tell you that I'm certain of. I can't sit here and tell you they're going to the playoffs or to the Super Bowl. They are going to be a significantly better coach team this year than they have been in years. Yeah. Because I believe, and some would suggest to me, hey, how do you know Ben Johnson is going to take that step into the role of head coach and have success? I can't guarantee that, but I have a pretty good feeling that he'll be okay. Like when Matt Nagy came here from Kansas City, Matt didn't even really call plays. I mean, that was Andy's show. There were moments when he did. Ben Johnson has orchestrated a top 5 offense for each of the last 3 years. Yeah, so I know what he can do on the offensive side of things. I think he put together a great staff, so wherever he doesn't have experience, he can fill in the gaps or the blanks with some guys like Dennis Allen, who has been a head coach before. Yeah. The familiarity he has with Antoine Randall, I think, will help. And Eric Bieniemy has been an accomplished position coach in the league. So I don't think it's going to take long for them to kind of establish themselves as a no-nonsense, we know what we're doing group. And I think it was, look, when they decided finally to move on from Matt Eberflus in the middle of last year, there was only one guy that I thought fit the criteria for exactly what they needed, and it was Ben Johnson. So I'm thrilled. I think that they will be a better team in a lot of areas. They've invested so much, Pat, on the offensive side of the ball, whether it's Caleb Williams or it's, Rome Odunze last year. Now they've upgraded the interior of their offensive line. You gave DJ fresh money. You drafted Burden. You drafted Colston Loveland. What they needed was someone that could conduct the symphony, and I think that Ben Johnson's a perfect guy for that.
Is that going to be his biggest hurdle as a new head coach here, trying to keep a lot of the weapons happy?
I always laugh about that. It's not
It's a good problem to have. Right?
Yeah, it's like it's not a ridiculous thought or question, right. But like, boy, an embarrassment of riches. Wouldn't you like to be a play caller who has to worry about, hey, am I getting enough touches for this guy?
Yeah.
I don't think you worry about that. And I think the one thing I do feel is important on that topic is I think that Caleb has to stick to what Ben Johnson's asking him to do, and let's not play favorites. I thought and you and I have had this conversation before. I have the utmost respect for the player that Keenan Allen has been in this business. I think Caleb Williams looked to him way too much last year. Anytime that things looked a little bit fuzzy or cloudy to him, the first thing he would do was look for Keenan. I thought it slowed down the development of Rome Odunze.
Right.
I just thought it slowed down the development of Caleb, and I don't think that that's going to be the case this year. I don't think that Ben Johnson will allow that to be the case. Look, I think I don't think it's a ridiculous thought. It just makes me giggle and laugh a little bit because, my God, going back to the days when I played, they would have loved to have had that problem where, hey, guys, we have too much talent in the receiver room. No, we don't.
No, I think
with all due respect to Wendell Davis, who was a great player.
I think the question more so comes from what we've seen in times like that on some teams is the ego comes in. Everybody's got an ego. There's something you have to manage, and that's probably what you see head coaches do the most outside of play calling and things like that, where DJ Moore, maybe he's not getting the same numbers. Or like last year, there was a lot of looks to Keenan Allen, and a lot of people looked at DJ Moore's attitude or lack thereof on the field and said, oh, he's pouting because he's not getting the football.
I thought the relationship on-field relationship, I can't speak to their personal relationship, I have no idea, but I thought the on-field relationship between Cole and Caleb it looked a little off.
Didn't look like it existed, really.
Yeah, I mean, when your top tight end, who you'd given a contract extension a couple of years to, only gets targeted, I want to say 52 or 53 times. Now, with that said, I love Cole Kmet, the kid. I love him as a teammate. I love him as a leader on the team. I think he's maybe a top 15 or 17 tight end in the league. I don't think he's an elite talent, but he's a guy I want on my team. Right. So I don't think he needed 100 targets the way that they targeted Keenan and DJ and Rome. But I just didn't feel like there was any real chemistry and there was no flow to what they were trying to do. And this year, I think what they're going to do is take advantage of mismatches. And when you face Cleveland, you may go to your tight ends more because you will try to attack their safeties or linebackers. When you face, Detroit, you may go after their corners. So DJ on the edge and Rome on the edge, I just think it's a matter of over the course of a 17-game schedule, everyone's going to get theirs.
Yeah, I do wonder if when, you talked about Keenan last year and how Caleb kind of utilized him as a safety blanket. I do wonder if that's something that Caleb may need or Caleb may want, which could cause some issues as well. Because the one thing for me that I think you do see a lot of quarterbacks that maybe aren't sure of themselves, right? Last year for Sam Darnold, it was Justin Jefferson's down there somewhere. Like, that was the entire system. Once Justin came back, it was like, I know he's down. And when he was out, it was Jordan Addison is down there somewhere. I think that's kind of what Caleb got into, and I think we see that a lot around the league, even with the best of the best. Joe Burrow knows, if I get in trouble, I got to get this ball to Jamar Chase.
Well, until one of our guys establish themselves as Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, then I think the best thing to do is to spread it around. Look, even in Detroit last year, Amon-Ra St. Brown was a first team, I believe, all-pro. Yep. If not second team, he probably had 100 catches, but it didn't mean that Sam Laporta didn't get his and Jamison Williams didn't get his. Right. And Jahmyr Gibbs was also targeted at times, and different guys filled in as their third and fourth receivers. So I don't expect that to be a problem. I don't think Ben will let that be a problem. Yeah. I think if anyone starts to hang their head or pout that they're not getting the football, they're going to get a swift kick in the ass.
Yeah, he already called that out. It was
no block, no rock.
Well, even after that, it was he said we don't want hands up attitude on this team. That's a sign of defeat. Yeah. And even I guess in practice it happened one time, and DJ Moore said, "Yeah, he talked to me. We found out real quick. We're not doing that no more." So I
don't think there's going to be a lot of patience for any type of, either outward selfish behavior or even something that's borderline selfish behavior. Yeah. I think that stuff's going to be addressed quickly, and I don't think it'll be part of the equation. And look, again, this is what you wanted. You wanted someone to hold you accountable and coach you hard
all season.
Well, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
I'd be careful, being a wise ass around the huddle or in meeting rooms early in camp.
Is that a good thing in football, though? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we've gotten to the point where there are some of the more fun coaches that you see, but the guys that usually tend to win.
Well, there'll be time for fun.
Yeah.
But, right now is the time to kind of readjust what has happened in this town up at Lake Forest for a number of years. Yeah. So let's get our work done. Let's set our culture. Let's get our patterns, and, by patterns, I don't mean, pass routes. I mean how we behave and how we go about our practices. And when we find our routine and our groove and we're doing all the right things, then we'll have fun. Like the fun comes with winning. Ask anybody that's ever played sports. Like you could sit around and play grab ass and you go 5 and 12. Well, I'm saying, and you play 5, you go 5 and 12, and nobody's having fun.
Right.
You sit in a more of a militant type of environment, obviously speaking in sports terms.
In sports terms, yes.
And you win 12 games and lose 5, everyone's having fun. And then once you find that level of success, again, I use Detroit as an example because of the familiarity with Ben. You think Dan Campbell tolerates, nonsense? I don't believe he does.
No.
But I also believe he's created an environment where they have a hell of a lot of fun. And a lot of the fun is associated with winning. But, yeah, I
There's
think...
a seriousness to it.
And I think there needs to be.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be. Early on, I think Ben Johnson has done a good job of it early, setting a tone that we're here to work. This is a job. You guys are paid millions and millions of dollars, rightfully so, because you can do something that only half of a percent of the population can do. We're going to get our work done, and in the process, we're going to have fun because we're going to win games.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited about too. You saw it early on in minicamp, early on at the OTA process. I mean, Ben was like, the craziest thing I heard was your mindset was not ready to run that play.
Yeah,
I was like, they weren't thinking the right way. How Caleb called that play. He wasn't ready to call.
There are no deflector shields out there. Everybody is going to receive the coaching, and rightfully so. There aren't many guys that, I don't believe that can bellyache about being coached hard because, again, when you look at the body of work from this organization over the course of the last several years, at the end of the day, you haven't won enough games.
I'll be honest with you, Waddle. I was...
And by the way, let me just interject this as well. I make it sound like guys are going to be discouraged. I don't. I think guys are going to love this.
I think they're going to be happy about it, yes.
I do. I think they're going to be happy that... there was always this conversation. We're going to make Caleb uncomfortable. Caleb's going to be uncomfortable because he's going to be asked to do some of the stuff that he hasn't done in the past. You're going to play on time. You're going to play inside the structure of the offense. We're not going to completely take away your ability to be creative and innovative, but what we're going to need you to do is play the game with more precision. I don't think Caleb is going to resist that. I think that Caleb is going to welcome that, and it's going to be in large part because, A, he knows that the coaching he's getting is better than anything he's had recently, and there will be positive reinforcement because you will see the results of what Ben Johnson's asking him to do. So Ben may make it difficult on him. Hey, that ball's got to come out. He may be on him for a lot of stuff, but when they get into games and Caleb sees the benefit of what he's being asked to do, I think everyone would be just fine with what Ben Johnson's asking him to do.
It also feels like there's a clear-cut direction, and maybe this is what having veteran coaches does for you. It feels like there's a goal they're trying to get to, and the Bears are not only accomplishing that goal today's goal, but also building on that. That's the one thing for me that has been the biggest difference when I was up there, right? Like when you're looking at day over day, Matt Eberflus would do one thing one day and you'd be like, oh, okay, the offense got it. And then the very next day you'd be like, that's the exact same false start that you were complaining about on day one of practice. Like we're not seeing those things be continued issue. Now there's no pads, there's nothing on, nothing has been full speed as of yet, but it's very different to see how much veteran coaches make a difference in the building. And people who are I understand Ben Johnson is new to being a head coach, but everybody else has done the job that they're doing right now before, and it seems like that's helping things along a little quicker.
I totally agree. I also think that one of the benefits of having Joe Thuney in your building and Grady Jarrett in your building is they provide some of that veteran leadership from the player's perspective. You're 100% correct. You're going to get it from the coaching staff. But one of the things I think that they missed last year and over the course of the last few years is that one of those alpha personalities. And Joe Thuney may or may not be a guy that screams and yells at you, but Joe's going to do it one way. And if you don't do it the way Joe does it, you're not going to play.
Yeah.
Because Joe,
you're doing it wrong.
Right, because Joe has set a standard. He is an all-pro.
Yes.
He has been one of the best guards in the National Football League for a decade. And Grady Jarrett may not be a guy who's going to get you 10 sacks any longer, but Grady's going to still fill a role. He's going to be productive on the field, and I think that leadership he brings into the huddle and in the building, I think is going to be tremendously valuable as well.
I think the value of him is going to be, it almost feels like he's pushed Javon Dexter to become more of a leader, because I think leaving last season, maybe Dex was like, no, this is my defensive line. It didn't do well, but this is my defensive line. And
we call that premature whatever. I would say it's premature for Dexter to think that that's his defensive line.
But I think there's also the conversation of like, nobody else was there that was stepping up, so I'll step up. We got to figure this out. And now with Grady Jarrett coming in, we've heard that Javon Dexter's been the one to set up a lot of the things, a lot of the workouts and stuff like that the D-line is doing. So
well, on the field, look, you paid Montez $100 million. He's and I think he was probably a little more banged up than many people thought, but that's from a performance standpoint, that's another, you lead also by accomplishment, and Montez got to have a better year.
100%. We'll see what ends up happening with the defensive line this year. I want to ask you about this wide receiver room. Now, we've kind of talked about some of the pieces here. There's a lot of players that are going to be on the field. Where do you see everybody's role being on this team that best accentuates what they do well? To me, I look at DJ Moore and I'm like, he's going to dominate in the slot. But then I'm like, okay, where's Luther Burden going to go?
Yeah.
Because I almost think he could dominate in the slot as well.
It's funny. You have to have a really good feel to play in the slot. It's just a different position. And I haven't seen enough of Luther to know if that's where he will excel. I think it's going to be a spot where Colston Loveland makes a huge impact. I really think that I loved Rome coming out. I liked Rome more than I liked Malik Neighbors. I thought Malik Neighbors was more explosive with the ball in his hands. I thought Rome was a better overall receiver.
Right.
I still feel that way, despite the year that Neighbors had compared to what Rome. I think Rome's going to be a hell of a player. I think that you'll see it. I'll be very surprised if you don't see a noticeable jump. Like you're going to say at the end of 2025, wow, that they used a number 9 pick on this kid, and I understand why.
Is he our number 1 receiver by the end of the year?
I believe he will be at the end of the year. I think, DJ's go back and look at the stats. DJ had been my favorite player on this team.
966 and 6, I think, last season.
Well, whatever it was, he was always a top 10, even top 5 run after the catch guy.
Yeah.
So while he could run the whole route tree, I think that getting the ball in his hands quickly, he's so strong too, that it's hard to bring him down, and he's very explosive. I think he will get back to, I think they realize, I think Ben Johnson looks at DJ, and I've heard him say, like, look, we got to get the ball in his hands early and let him do what he does because he's great run after the catch. I think Ben told us that in Indianapolis at the Combine. I think the world of Rome. And here's hoping that I don't get proven wrong. I don't think I will because I think he's a hell of an athlete. I think he's a hard worker. He's a great kid. I just think there's so much talent there that I think that this will be a nice. I like Colston Loveland. I think I sat here with you before the draft and told you, no disrespect to Tyler Warren from Penn State, but Colston Loveland to me fit what they're trying to do better. More of that downfield wide receiver and a tight end body type of player, hand catcher, good separation. And I think that, again, some people they want to compare him to Sam Laporta in Detroit, obviously with Ben, and I get it. I think that Loveland's actually an even better athlete than Laporta. So
George Kittle,
that's
kind
who
of category.
Yeah. Again, that's putting
very
high expectations.
Very high, but that type of tight end.
Yeah, that's what I see Loveland being. I think that Loveland has even more athletic ability than Laporta, and Laporta's obviously a tremendous young tight end in this league. So I think you're going to get a lot out of a lot of these guys. Burton's, I think, I'm excited to see what he can do. I would expect the ball to go to DJ and Rome and Colston before it would go to
Luther Burden.
But that may change.
Yeah.
It's hard to stay healthy in this league, too, for all 17 weeks. So, it doesn't matter to me who's
Just catch the ball.
Yeah.
Get the ball out and catch the ball.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to be interesting about this season, too, is you've got all of these weapons, and we talked about this last year when you had all the weapons, but now you have the offensive line. I think Caleb's going to be better at assessing what he's seeing from the defense. Apparently, there'll be people watching tape with him. If that was real or not, we'll never know. But, I
think that was kind of I think the comment came from his dad, yes. Right? And my guess is Caleb was like, look, this just doesn't feel right, doesn't look right. I'm sure they were watching tape. I don't know. I don't know that any NFL franchise has. So what do you do? Is Kerry Joseph after practice just get in his truck and go home?
Well, that's what I figured. I was like, I wonder if it was like Caleb's trying to reach out to people at like, 1:30 a.m. because he's on the iPad, and they're like, I'm sleeping, kid. Like, leave me alone. I don't need you right now. Yeah. I'll see you in the morning. Yeah,
I'm sorry I even brought it up because it's one thing I want to just go away and move forward with. And
I think that's the one part I do love about this. When you look at everything that is available, it does feel like there's so many storylines that are wrapped around the Bears that have gone away. The one thing I was going to bring up, I was sitting here looking up Bears playoffs to do some research for a video. I didn't realize you were our number one wide receiver the last time we won a road game, I believe, in a playoff.
I don't think. No, I think the last time we won a road playoff game was Minnesota in 1994. By we, I mean the organization, yes. Which is crazy. I was on that team. The only contribution I made in that game was I recovered an onside kick. I was cooked at that point. That was my last year in the league. I could barely get out of the chair. So I was on the hands team and played a little bit sparingly. We did go to – I was the leading receiver the following week in San Francisco when we got our asses kicked by the 49ers in the second round of the playoffs. That's when I led the team in receiving that game.
Always showing up at the right time. Waddle. No, it
wasn't enough because I think we got run out of the barn.
It was one of those things where it's like there's all these organizational stigmas. One that I love that Ben Johnson isn't running from, 4,000-yard passer, 30 touchdowns, and Ben Johnson's basically like, yeah, bring all of that on. Yeah. Well, that'll be done by this year, which I think is just the confidence that he has. You see it exuding through the team. You see it exuding through Caleb. Like, those are the things for me that I think is just a real difference. And no disrespect to Matt Eberflus, but there's a little more to lean on for the team to believe in. Matt was coming from an Indianapolis defense that, they were fine. They also won 2 games, I believe, that season.
Yeah. I don't have really any – I'm not tied to numbers with regard to Caleb at this point. I'll give you 2. 2 numbers that, to me, are more important than touchdowns and more important than passing yards, which are all very important. Completion percentage and sacks taken. Now, if you go back and look at Ben Johnson's offense, or you look at, I believe, Jared Goff, and Caleb, I want to say, completed 61.5% of his passes last year. It's got to be 67. Nothing less than 67%, because if you go back and look at last year's performance, I believe there were 20 quarterbacks in the National Football League who played at least 10 games that completed at least 67% of their passes. That's just the game now. You have to take
72% last
year. In Jared Goff's first year with the Lions, it was 67%.
I believe you are correct, yes.
And then it got to 72 this past year. And that's the point I'm making. So when you're completing 67% of your passes at a bare minimum, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be more productive in all facets of what you're trying to do. Your completion percentage, the raise in completion percentage will result in more touchdowns. It will result in more passing yards. And then the sacks taken, it can't be, he had 68 sacks, I think, taken last year, and you could attribute probably a fourth of them or maybe a third of them to him not having great feel. He obviously didn't have a lot of help, but he's got to be smarter with getting rid of the football, taking your layups, and those two things can be intertwined. When you're making good decisions and getting rid of the ball quick, your completion percentage is going to go up and you're going to take fewer sacks. And then I would say even again, the yardage thing is not at the top of my list. Touchdown interception ratio to me would be the third thing. Yeah. And some may put that higher than the sacks taken or the completion percentage. But right now where he is, the touchdowns will come if he will trust the offense and he will get rid of the football and don't, have so many negative plays. And then maybe in his third year, I'll sit here with you and say, well, going into 2026, the most important stat to me is touchdown interception ratio or passing, because he's already cleared some of these hurdles. I don't have a problem with him throwing more interceptions. I think last year, what was he, 20 and
6, yeah. But there were so many games where it was like, well, there's no chance for an interception on that ball because you sailed it into 4 yards deep into the stands.
See, and that to me also tells you that he really isn't trusting a lot of things. I would rather see him have 27 touchdowns and 12 interceptions.
Yeah.
Because that tells me that he is taking chances, but he's not being risky. He's not, not being reckless. You have to have some risk involved, but you can't be reckless.
Was that a Flus mindset? Because I feel like we kind of saw that under Justin as well.
Under no circumstances.
Number.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And Justin would score 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. And they'd be like, all right, are you done trying to score points now? And they would be done, right? I feel like we saw that last season with Caleb, where I remember week 2, he tried to fit the ball in there to Cole Kmet, doing a classic Caleb move. Interception happens, game is over. We didn't see him try that pass again until Thomas Brown took over. And when Thomas Brown took over, it was like, the season's over, kid. Like, let it fly. Go figure it out. And all of a sudden, that's when you saw the quarterback that you were like, this is the dude we thought we had. This is the guy we've kind of been waiting for. Did the coaching neuter Caleb Williams last season?
I think the message probably did, and I think the lack of structure or stability probably put him on edge as well. He was not a stable environment last year. Like, I don't absolve him of a lot of the things that did go wrong from the quarterback position, because he's got to be better at a lot of it, but there was zero stability, or close to zero stability, in that building with regard to the most important position in the building. So, again, I wouldn't have problems with him throwing a few picks.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to happen.
Jared Goff threw 5 and won the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
like people kind of forget that. Like, Jared Goff was an MVP candidate, threw 5 interceptions, and then found a way to win the game in the second half.
Baker throws picks every now and again, but he also threw 40 touchdown passes. Yeah. Like, you have to be able to know what is a reckless play and what is a risky play. And when you can differentiate between the two, I think that you can play a little on the edge without being reckless and putting your team in harm's way. And so, again, I guess the conclusion of this thought would be that I won't be bothered if the interception total goes up.
Yeah.
If some of the other, because, again, when you're taking more risks, guess what? I think your touchdown number is going to go up too.
You're
so
fine
instead of 20 and 6, give me 29 and 12 or 28 and 11. And you're completing 67% of your passes. Instead of taking 68 sacks, you've taken 43 sacks.
The big thing is always, and tell me if I'm wrong here, Waddle, like it's when you throw them. I think Justin Herbert's a phenomenal quarterback. I think he throws the worst timed interceptions in the NFL right now.
No, it's a great point. Like, there are times and places where you'll learn that as you get older and you're experienced and you're a veteran, when it's the correct time to maybe take a chance and when it's not.
Yeah.
Timing is a bit of the equation too. So, but I think it's a really good point.
All right. Yeah, listen, I appreciate you tuning in with us. We'll see what ends up happening this season.
I'm telling you, like, no one in this building wants to bet the over. I'm betting the over.
What's the line right now?
8.5 wins. I'm going over 8.5 wins.
I guess I would think that. I got them at 9.
I got everything I wanted. I wanted them to improve the interior of their offensive line. They did it. I wanted them to bring in Ben Johnson. They did it. Like, I can't sit here and, give you a mealy mouth. Oh, I think you're going to win 7 games. I got everything I wanted.
I respect that, though, Waddle, because it is literally everything a Bears fan could ask for this season, but we're so jaded that we're
they're not done. You still need some pass rush. Yeah, you still need some pass rush. You got to solidify left tackle. There are some things that are still up there, but, I mean, again, I got everything I wanted. I'm not,
Are you double digits? You feeling double digits?
No, I'll stick with 9.
You at 9? You right at 9?
Yeah.
Just enough to win the bet.
Yeah, that's right. With upside potential.
Yeah, with upside potential. I like it. Hey, man, we appreciate you for tuning in. As always, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Thank you, Waddle, for joining the show. As always, make sure to tap in with Waddle over on the Waddle and Sylvie show coming up, or probably will be on right now, right after you finish this podcast.
We're always on.
They're always on.
Always on.
Especially on the Waddle and Sylvie YouTube page. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down. One love. Peace.